fact. So that, of course, is going to be relevant. And then the question is it too prejudicial, more so than probative? I would say it comes in. I would say it's very important information. It's not going to win the day, but it's a little piece of something. But don't get me started on that whole cell phone thing. As you know, I am disgusted by the reverence that is given all of this cell phone information. The texts, okay, we know that a text was made and received, but you never really know who is the sender, who is the receiver. The phone was the sending phone, the receiving phone was the receiving phone, and that's it. And we saw so much cell phone testimony with all the nice dots and graphs and circumferences around the areas of the pinging. But it's just, to me, it's given, when we can start saying that a certain cell phone was used by a person to the 25 million quadrillionth level like we do DNA, then maybe I'll be a little more respectful. But right now, it's subject to how many cell phone towers, how many phones, who has access to the phones. I've got a family plan I've got 4 phones in my name, and my kids using them and running around. Is that me? But that's what would come up in the records, that I was using it. So I got a problem with that. I'm sorry, I got off on my rant there. As to the texts, I think, yes, important and somewhat helpful, but it's not going to win the day.
It sounds like you got a lot of people running around on your cell phone
Yes.
plan. I don't know if I want to see that bill, Michael. It might be a big one. Here's a question for you, Bradford. It comes from Casey from YouTube. What or who makes a murder case become a death penalty case? Good question, because a lot of people have asked that. Why is this case a death penalty case? So in Florida, what makes a death penalty case a death penalty case?
So there's certain aggravators that are looked at in order to make it into a death penalty case. Every case is different. It just depends on the case, depends on how it happened. And in terms of whether or not they seek the death penalty, sometimes there's enough aggravators to maybe seek the death penalty, but maybe when they look at it, there's some mitigators. The individual might have a low IQ. There might be some trauma in their background. There might be something that they say, okay, we're not going to seek the death penalty on this, even though there are some aggravators. When there's police shootings or police killings, that's automatically an aggravator where most state attorneys will seek the death penalty. When there's an execution style killing, they might seek the death penalty because of the way the individuals were killed. There's a multitude of factors why they seek the death penalty. I think like I said, I think they overplayed their hand in this case. I think that the evidence, I can't stress enough, the evidence in this case about putting him in that vehicle, about that's his phone, he used
this is YNW Melly's
he did the shooting. This is a very difficult case for the state. Very early on, I was representing him for months. I saw the evidence. I went over the evidence. I just think that this is a very, very hard case for the state to prove. And I think David Howard, who I'm very familiar with and I've had cases with in the past, and we've shared clients before in the past, I think he's doing an excellent job. I think he's picking apart not only the state's case, but also picking apart the objections and getting that's key in any trial, especially a death case. You have to raise those objections. You have to do it well. You have to keep out the evidence that's irrelevant. And even the evidence that might be relevant, but the probative is not as great as the prejudicial, and keeping that evidence out. That's key in this case. And I think he's doing an excellent job of it.
Yeah, he certainly seems to know what he's doing.
You can't hear me? Oh my God, now you can hear me. My bad. Thank you so much, Tara. You the woman. But yeah, thank you, Tara. I appreciate it. So pretty much, Jesus, I just went through this whole spiel for nothing. What happened today was they walked in. 3 jurors ended up with food poisoning. Out of the 3 jurors that had food poisoning, 1 had it the night prior, and then 2 of them popped up with food poisoning, I guess, today. They stopped court for a little bit. They figured out that one of the jurors had been in the hospital again today, so they couldn't obviously depend on that juror. And they stopped proceedings. But what is about to happen when they come back here in a second is going to be ballistic tests from the experts that the prosecution hired to do their examinations on the track hawk and the trajectory of the bullets and how this all ties to Melly. And then then the defense actually has their own witnesses today. So they are going to be playing offense versus the defense they've been playing this whole time. So they really haven't, pushed anything or trying to push their motive to the jury. They just been kind of playing defense against the prosecutor. And they've been doing very well playing defense because everything she's put on the table has been knocked out. This guy right here that they're showing, he was YNW Melly's old lawyer. When YNW Melly caught this case, for whatever reason, he fired this guy and hired Boosie's lawyer, ex-lawyer, or whatever you want to call it, or someone that helped Boosie in the past. And then he also ended up hiring the lady that was helping Kodak Black. That's the lady that you guys see next to him throughout the trials at all times. She's kind of counseling him, telling him not to stare at people, not to say stuff, not to talk to his family. So she was the one that helped Kodak Black. So this guy was pretty much saying that the state, the lawyer was pretty much saying that the state doesn't have much, and he doesn't know much about what Melly went through in the situation, but from the conversations that he had with Melly before he was obviously let go, Melly wasn't worried about the gang affiliation and the prosecution side of that, because he pretty much was saying, like, this, I didn't do it. This wasn't gang affiliated. It has nothing to do with my gang ties. So they can talk about that all they want. That's not going to get us anywhere. So Melly was never worried about that. And that's where the prosecution is headed right now. They're trying to smash him on the gang ties. They're trying to make sure that the jury looks at him like a menace, like a criminal. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at right now. They're about to come in here from lunch in a second. I'm going to let you guys listen to what they have to say, because they obviously have different opinions than I do. I heard a lawyer on here earlier talking about it's over for Melly. He's done. If they let this information and guys, we've been here for almost 7 days. I don't know where this lawyer, maybe he has something that I don't have, but from what we've seen in the last 8 days, pretty shaky as far as the prosecution. And like I said, the defense they didn't even have to earn their money in this trial yet. Not yet. It's been 7 days. Almost, no, I'm lying. It's been more than 7 days. Almost a week and a half. And the defense didn't even have to earn their money yet. They just been like, objection. That don't make no sense. That's not relevant. This is in his phone. It's not in his name. It's in someone else. Everything that he brought up. So I don't know. They about to finally play some offense. They're about to finally put their own witnesses on the stand. They are about to finally start trapping the prosecutor and all her evidence that she has. So hopefully we get some action today versus what we've gotten the last couple of days. So I missed the whole morning. Did you just start streaming? Yeah, I just started. I watched the morning, but I didn't stream because, like I said, once, like, I think it was like not even 5 minutes into them starting to show everything, they like kind of, you could see everything. People were kind of confused. They didn't know what was going on or what to do. And then they pretty much started talking about the jurors and how they had food poisoning and how 2 of them had to leave today. And they realistically were thinking about shutting it down for today because of that. But peep the crazy shit, right? peep the craziness. They only need 8 jurors. So the 3 that are gone, they're gone. Who cares? They only need 8 jurors. I thought it was over. I thought, oh, court's done for the day. I'm not going to stream. They only need 8 jurors. And out those 8 jurors, they only need 4 to say guilty. It's bananas. The laws have changed, bro. The time of messing around thinking shit is a game is over. They not playing, bro. Literally. They took you from having 12 of your peers to say innocent, guilty, confused, hung jury. We don't know. Not enough evidence to. Bruh, it could be 4 of them boys determining your life. And I'm telling you, man, I'll be honest, I watched probably like a week and some change. I didn't watch everything. I wasn't listening to everything. Most of that stuff was boring. So if I'm a juror, man, I'm at this point in the case, I'm probably most likely just trying to get through the day. Not really paying too much attention with the cell phone towers and the way they're breaking down DNA and all the boring stuff. Like, by the time you really think about it, you're sitting there at the end of the day, you don't even know what the heck was going on. So I'm a little afraid of that, bro. 4 jurors could determine whether you live or die, bro. Serious. But yeah, so that's what's happened so far. And I'm excited for today because I believe that, like I said, I believe the defense is finally going to try to throw some punches back. And based off of what the prosecution has done so far, I don't know what the defense is going to do. I don't know what they're going to push. I don't know what's going to be their next move because I really don't know what her moves were. I really don't know what web she was trying to trap everybody in with all this information that meant nothing. It didn't even, to me, it still doesn't mean anything. They're talking about things that we all do on a regular basis, the way we talk, the way we stand, the colors we wear, the way we talk in text messages. They said something about real right, meant like being one of the biggest gangsters in America and you're solid and you come from, we say real right all the time. Real right. I don't know, bro. I'm just saying they were just describing a bunch of stuff that, like, now that I'm looking at it and I see the way other people look at me, I understand. Because if that's the way people look at it, like at each other, period, you could determine what someone is just by their mannerisms and the way they're wearing something and the way they talk, Pretty much, you could go to jail for that shit now. Anyways, I'm going to stop ranting and I'm going to let y'all go ahead and peep some of this stuff. I'm not gonna leave you here on the we'll be back. I'm gonna go ahead and rewind some of the stuff that you may have missed, so that you get their opinions as well, and hopefully they start soon so we can get this ball rolling.
I'm Anjanette Levy. It's Friday afternoon, and we're taking your questions here on our lunch show Q&A for the YNW Melly double murder trial. We have lots of.
If you guys have any of these questions for yourselves, throw them in the chat, man. Let's have a conversation. I know a lot of people got opinions on this.
@MaryEek_22 from YouTube. In regards to yesterday's witness, Danny Polo.
Yeah, I know it won't be. Hopefully, it won't be 4. That'd be bad. That's a tricky situation to sit there with 4 people determining your life. But hopefully, it won't be 4.
No. Don't ever get the camera.
I see you, Ms. Bowman.
Well, the judge thought about all of the different scenarios, including clearing the courtroom, and I think there was argument back and forth about that. The problem with that is that the media isn't going to get an opportunity to video what was going on, and I think all of the parties were aware of that. It's already been live streamed. I think the judge, the prosecution, and the defense really didn't want the courtroom to be cleared, although I will say the defense argued that the courtroom should be cleared so the witness could take off his mask. The defense was really pushing to take off that mask, and I think rightly so.
Off.
First of all, obviously,
you don't even know who this
Melly
guy
has a right
is,
to
bro.
confront and to look and to see and determine whether or not these witnesses are telling the truth, as does the.
Guys, that's another thing, right? And I'm gonna leave y'all with this. The reason why I agree with the fact that this guy shouldn't be wearing a mask in the courtroom, and I'll tell you why. I don't know where you guys come from, but we come from a city where there's a lot of cops and good people, bad people, but there are some people that will they will have it in for you, bro. Like they will dislike you just because you are on the block every day, or you're a get money guy and they don't like your arrogance. They will stick to you like for real. So what if this guy that's behind a mask that is a detective, he obviously has to be a detective, undercover detective, but what if this guy is somebody that he's had prior issues with or run-ins with or problems with? Like, we don't even know that. We don't know where this guy came from, and we don't know why the heck they're so adamant about keeping his mask on. Like, my boy, there's a lot of undercover people.
And so the defense really wanted that mask off.
There's a lot of undercover agents that have to go and, testify, bro. They're not in there with masks.
She wanted a mask, or they wanted the rest of the jury to have a mask. They were concerned about their safety too. So it was a really close call, but I think
I know I didn't just hear that. Hold on.
Comfortable, and she also said she
Hold on, I know I
Melly
didn't
has
hear
a
that.
right to confront and to look and to see and determine whether or not these witnesses are telling the truth, as does the jury. And so the defense really wanted that mask off. The jury was concerned. We had 2 questions from one of the jurors about whether or not that mask was making her uncomfortable, and she also said she wanted a mask, or they wanted the rest of the jury to have a mask. They were concerned about their safety too.
She said he wearing the mask. I want to wear a mask.
So it was a really close call, but I think the judge...
You guys go. I'm going to leave y'all with this for a second. They're coming back. Literally, it shows here. I got a clock on the back. They look like
somebody's going
about
to get 50 grand if they take this guy out, according to what he said. But, Michael, I think the mask thing, that came up even during COVID, that jurors should be able to see facial expressions to judge credibility and stuff like that. So the mask thing is a little bit interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we saw, sometimes there were cases where the defendant would wear the mask the whole time, which was really frustrating, not only for our audience, but the jury had to just, imagine Melly with a mask on during this trial. I mean, half of what he's done has been his animation there at the defense table. So we get it. This is the nonverbal part of communication is so important. I'm still kind of scratching my head as to how the judge decided this was okay. I really think it was a bad decision.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Blair Carlton from YouTube. Will the jury likely take Melly's conduct in the courtroom into consideration? Bradford, what do you think of that?
So in any case, and I've been in some pretty high-profile trials, in any case, the actions or reactions of the defendant is always taken into consideration by a jury. But at the end of the day, you'd hope they look at the evidence, you hope they look at the lack of evidence, and you hope that prevails. But the attitude of the defendant, the way they're dressed, the way they present themselves, that's always something a jury looks at. People make a living out of dressing defendants, out of telling them how to act, out of picking jurors. So that is a whole nother area of law that's often overlooked. I like to dress my defendants a certain way. I inform them on how to behave and how to act. I don't do whispering in terms of there's a lot of things that you just have to take into consideration when you're before a jury. Even for lawyers, sometimes we react. Sometimes you hear something that someone says on the stand that's so ridiculous, you want to react. And the same way during cross-examination. Sometimes on cross-examination, I have to pull myself back from, saying this just doesn't smell right, because we're not there to testify. We're there to elicit facts, and then at the end of the day, put them all together in a closing argument and say, this is why the state did not prove their case. This is why they did not meet that burden of evidence. And does the reactions or actions of a defendant come into play? I think it does, but I think ultimately a jury is going to look at the lack of evidence in this case. And like I said before, I think it's a defense case.
All right, our next question from Flow God Gamer from YouTube. Will the medical examiner's testimony be worthy of death penalty or any jail time as a whole? Terry, how important do you think the medical examiner's testimony will be?
It's the one I am waiting for. And if that medical examiner has his facts in order, and if in fact there's no holes made in his testimony, I think it's going to be pivotal, because if he says that the cause of death was a bullet, say for instance for Christopher Thomas in that back seat, let's say he says, you know, a bullet to the head, close range. That's pivotal, and that is something that is going to sway that jury unless the defense can make something of it. And the same with Anthony in the front seat. If his kill shot was something that was close in range, I think they can sway the jury and they can think, okay, then the gunshot came from the inside. They still haven't put the gun in Melly's hand. So I think if they have a medical examiner, he knows what he's doing, he's carefully looked at that autopsy, he's done a report that is sound, the jury is going to look at that and take it very seriously. And if he goes on to say that all of those other bullets were done, and we've heard this already from the opening, after the fact, that's a problem.
This one's from TikTok, Michael Bryant. It's from My Thoughts. Why do you think his DNA on the door handle is suspicious? Didn't you say that he got in on that side?
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was more odd that it wasn't there, or was more difficult to find until some supervisor gave it a second look, because, I mean, you're watching the video and we see him get in that side of the vehicle. He didn't climb through the window. He must have touched the handle at some point. So I thought it was no big deal. I thought it was, the bigger concern I had was that the way they found the DNA was just, like forum shopping is the example I used the other day. You know, I'm just going to go to enough people here in the department, at the Miramar department, until somebody has the answer I'm looking for, and that just stinks. It just doesn't smell right.
I think it was a huge blunder to come in and say, hey, his DNA is on the driver's side passenger of the vehicle. Have video of him getting in the car. Why would then you show that there's DNA that was found 4 years later? Like I said, juries these days, they question everything. So 4 years later, you find DNA on the driver's passenger door. It just doesn't smell right, and it doesn't make the prosecution look good. And that's the problem. I think it's very hard to regain trust from a jury when you lose it. And I think that the prosecution here is losing their credibility from, I think from the moment they started arguing with the ex-girlfriend's mom and saying, putting it on me. I didn't do that. I didn't threaten you. I didn't do this. Once you start saying things like that, you're taking away from the case, and now you're focusing it on you. And that's very difficult to do. There's a lot of very famous lawyers throughout the years, F. Lee Bailey included, that would say, when I'm in front of a jury, I don't even wear a watch because I don't want to take the focus off the case. I don't want to put anything, the focus on me. I don't want to wear a pin. I don't want to wear a watch. I don't want to wear excessive jewelry. I just want to argue my case to the jury. And I think that's where they started to go wrong. And like I said, anything could happen, but I think that was a mistake.
Interesting. Yeah, it'd be nice to know why they decided to go back and look for that. Because you know what? He could be sitting there, his DNA's there. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. Just because you're there doesn't mean you left your DNA. All right, let's take a quick break. Keep the questions coming in, and we'll get to much more of them when we come back. I'm Anjanette Levy, and you are watching Law and Crime.
All right, so we gonna talk about that a little bit, man. Y'all heard what they said. I'm pretty sure you heard it. I was listening. think about that, man. Think about what the guy said. There was 2 key points that I took from that. One, 4 years later. Oh no. Matter of fact, let's start this. Let's do it this way, right? So the prosecution needed someone to give her the evidence she wanted, and he explained that. It seems like she went shopping around the department and eventually found the person that would say, "Yeah, man, that's his. We found his DNA." 4 years later. 4 years down the road, you found that man's DNA on something that you said wasn't there. That's one. So that is weird. That's weird. And understand that they found that DNA 3 weeks before the trial started. 3 weeks before the trial started, they found that boy's DNA on the car. That don't seem fishy to you? I don't know what to call it, bro. I really truly don't know what to call it. And then what was the other thing that the lady said? His lawyer said something. Well, his ex-lawyer said something that made sense. One day, he obviously didn't jump through the damn window like they said. And 2, the case alone is being centered around this prosecutor's inconsistencies. Like literally. If you stay tuned, or you've been watching, or you're watching on your own, I mean, do your own research, right? The lady is just all over the place. None of her information matches. None of her information ties this YNW Melly to the murder. We all know he was there. We all know something happened. We don't know what happened. 2 of the people are gone. One of them is fighting for his life right now. The other one is about to fight for his life right after this. And there's no information on nothing that happened. Not one piece of evidence. You come on, man. You're a whole week and some change in, and you don't have one like hardcore, like we gotcha type of evidence. I mean, depending on what happens today, man, I honestly think that this is over with. That's my opinion. I think it's over with. I think eventually this judge is going to go to the point where he's just like, you know what? I'm done with the effery, to excuse my language, and he's eventually going to call this. I guarantee it. Watch. The judge, you can see it in his face, the annoyance he has. Even when it came to the jurors this morning, he's just like, damn, another and something else. What else is gonna go wrong? So I don't know. It's been pretty crazy so far. Pretty crazy so far. Let's take a listen. Let's see what they talk about.
Keep the questions coming in on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok.
Yeah, if you
we'll get to as
through,
many of them
sure
as
subscribe,
we
man.
can.
I'm gonna be on here every day.
Let's get this next question
Every
over
day. We
to
here.
Michael. Darth Yoda from YouTube,
except
not
tomorrow.
Darth
No, I don't
Vader.
think they got
Darth
court
Yoda
tomorrow, but we here.
asks, how does the court
Every
make
court
sure
date.
that the jury is not watching the media or social media for influence? Very good question.
Well, Darth, what are you going to do? Are you going to have a Big Brother system where, I mean, it's really an honor
like this
system.
guy.
And
I like this
what I
dude
think
right
we
here.
found
He's been
over the
real the whole
years in different
time.
cases is if somebody violates that very important rule, it gets learned. Either they can't keep their mouth shut and they say something to another juror, and maybe another juror who rats them out because they take it so seriously. So, the short answer is there is no way to be 100% certain. But it's a pretty good system, and it seems to monitor and police itself. And you can only hope that those who take the oath, take a seat in the box,
no way the jurors
take it
not watching this
seriously
shit outside,
and follow that very important directive. Am I saying it's never happened? Of course, it's happened. But we like to think that it's the rare case.
Yeah, I'd be a horrible juror. I'm just not the person to be a juror.
Bradford, I want to follow up on that with you as a defense attorney. I'm wondering, during a trial, do you have paralegals and PIs, other people monitoring social media of the jurors? Or what are you doing I know you're trying to keep an eye on that to see whether or not there are people violating the rules.
You want all my tricks, obviously.